quite excited for today's session. We're doing an advanced session today. Basics, obviously, we covered earlier this week, and we went through creating a file. We had to do a bit of an emergency file, and we were trying to make it practical. And today we're going to kind of keep it in the same vein. So we want to make it as practical as possible. We want to go through things that we feel people actually do struggle with sometimes, and like realistic things. And so we're going to try that approach today. Before we do get into the super practical side, though, we do just want to cover a few things. And one of the things that I want to reiterate, and I'm going to run through it today with you guys, is just that I mentioned it, what was it, Tuesday, that the two-factor authentication is going to go live essentially this next 7 August, that it's going to become mandatory. So everyone will have to have two-factor authentication on their account. And as mentioned on Tuesday, it's essentially just something that we've built in. It's become standard practice, especially when you're working with sensitive data, to have an additional security layer. And for us to keep our security certifications and all of that, we actually need to implement that now. So you will see there's a notification about it. So I'm going to quickly pop that open. You'll see there's a notification, mandatory two-factor authentication. And we've got a little bit of detail there. And we also have a guide in terms of where you can actually go and set it up. But I'm actually going to run through that today for you guys as well. So let's quickly take a look at how to do the two-factor authentication. So this is a profile that I have. They are trying to connect to my grain and gain accounting practice, right? Which is the same one that I have over here. You can see the difference is, though, they are not able to see anything because they haven't activated two-factor authentication. All right. So I can either just click here to activate it. Alternatively, I can click on this little button at the top, which is my profile. And I can go to my profile, and under the profile, you can see that it's going to say enable two-factor authentication, right? I can just, if I want to activate it, simply click on that. It's going to jump me through to our two-factor authentication section of the site. It gives you a little bit of an explanation of what two-factor is, and just to reiterate essentially what this is two-factor authentication is a secondary layer of security. So if your password is compromised for some reason, so somebody has your email, somebody has your password, and they would be able to log into your Draftworx profile, two-factor authentication is the thing that actually stops them. So two-factor authentication is the thing that's going to prevent them from accessing it, because what it does is when you actually log in, it sends a message and it says, listen, you need to put in this 5-digit code or whatever it is to actually log in. So it's a step of additional security. At the moment, we are using authenticator applications that's linked to your phone. So what I would do is I'm simply going to say next. Now on my side, I've got my authentication app on my phone open, and I'd click on a little plus. There's a way, and it says scan QR code. I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to scan the QR code. And then it gives me a code, essentially, that I can type in over here, this 6-digit code. And I simply type that in. And that code rotates every 60 seconds. And then, essentially, I can go through and I'll say verify next. And it does give me some extra backup codes. These backup codes, if your phone breaks or anything like that, you would be able to use these backup codes to actually essentially access the profile as well. And then I'd say verify and enable. And now what has happened is it's actually gone and activated two-factor authentication on this profile. And so I'm just going to quickly grab that email again. So if I now log in with my email address, you can see it's asking me to actually enter that two-factor authentication code again, which again, I'm just going to type in. Now, important thing here is you can actually say, don't ask again on this computer. So you're not going to have to do it every single time that you work on your computer. You can actually remember your computer. I do that most of the time because I don't want to be asked the whole time to put in that additional thing. The security layer is still there because if someone has your password, they're going to be logging in from a different computer. And you can see now, obviously, I can see all of the client files and all of those things. So that is the two-factor authentication. As I said, will be becoming mandatory. And it is important. We have to stay up with the times, especially in these days, security. You want to keep your client's data safe. If we have a breach or you have a breach, anything like that, it's big problems. And we have to keep our standards high. And two-factor is one of those things that we have to do. Awesome. Then another thing that I just wanted to show you guys, and it's also something that we're going to be activating for everybody at the end of this month, and that's the client portal. Now, some of the clients who might have seen the client portal before we showed it off in January when we did our webinars. We're actually now ready to just open it up for everyone. And what we're going to do, you'll see you're going to get a new little icon at the top here. That actually just says go to client portal, a little globe icon. And what the client portal is, if I click on that, is we've built a communication, and it's a communication that you can use that is between you and your client, as well as possibly your client auditors, right? And how it would work is you can see I've got a whole bunch of clients over here. I can access it, and one of the things we can do is we can create requests that we can send off to our clients. So I can say, please add ABC, whatever it might be, type in detail, and I can actually assign it to somebody. And what's nice here, because we can assign it, we can kind of keep track of it. It's not an email that just gets lost. And so you can see what we've also got is we've got from the actual client side. So I've got Mr. Mario, which is my client. I also have the auditors, which is the baker's man, and then I also have essentially my own practice. And so my own practice I can set here and make modifications to. And so that's essentially the different things that I can do. I can set it up, I can put a due date on, I can also choose to add additional files to this as well. And once I do that, it would send a request through, they'll get an email and they can, fulfill the request and so on. And we can chat on that. So you can see I've previously asked Mr. Mario to go and upload his company details. And he sent me a message. It's a me, Mario, and he has gone and added the files that I need. Fantastic. Thanks so much, Mr. Mario. Added all that information. So I've got a trial balance. I've got a letterhead. All of that info goes there. And so that's the one thing. Additional to that, we do have files, which is essentially just a folder structure that we have that we can go and work with. And you'll see, because I am logged in, obviously, as the practice, I can see both the audit documents as well as all the client info, and the auditors would be able to see the audit documents, and then the client's going to be able to see just the client info. And so all of that sits there in our client portal. I'll use it a little bit today and just show you how it works. It's very useful. It is something that we also want to expand on. So if anyone has any feedback on it, we always love feedback. So please, you're welcome to send it through and we can actually work through that. All right. Then additional other things, just to touch base on a few more advanced things to work on. When we are looking at our client list screen over here, as mentioned before, we do have our audit trail that is available now, just something to highlight. If you do need it, please pop it there. You can search on this list for specific things as well. So if I want to look at anything that might have specifically been done to the daily slice file, I can actually search here and it's going to give me all the different info. So the daily, and you can see it shows me specific clients. So very useful. You can export this as well into Excel and all of those kind of things. So you can actually just keep track. Very nice to see who's doing what and who's making changes on the files. Perfect. Then going from there, on the files themselves, because I am a partner user, I have got the ability to do quite a few changes and things on the files. So let's say I'm going to just use this Croissant Kingdom, and we click on these three lines, I have the ability to actually go and lock the client file and lock it as read only. So I covered the copy and the archive and the delete and so on Tuesday. But then we've got the lock client and the lock as read only. Now, why do we have two locks? Well, the fully lock client, what that does is it actually won't allow your managers and clerks to even access that file. They won't be able to open it at all. All right, so it's a complete lockdown. And then lock as read only will allow people to still access it, so they can view the financials, they can see the TB, but they are not able to make any changes. So nothing they do there is going to update the actual file on the server. So just a few little tools that we can use when we are actually managing our clients, and the lock obviously very useful. If you're finished with the client and you don't want anyone to change it again, file's been signed off, you can lock it. You don't need to even unlock a file to roll it forward. So you can go and lock your prior files and then just, as you go, roll them forward. It's not going to prevent that from actually happening. So it's very useful. Okay, cool. Another thing that I wanted to quickly mention today is the integrations that we have been working on. So we have a couple of integrations with a few different partners that we've been working on, and the idea there is just to speed up the process. When you create a file, we want to start pulling in as much information as we can to the client setup so that you don't have to go and put in all of that detail. You don't have to go type in the practice, the company's registration numbers, and then, the addresses and the directors and so on. So all of that pulls in automatically. And that's one of the things we're trying to look at and trying to just speed up that process of actually doing a set of financials. So I need to just set that up on my profile first. And we're going to be activating that actually tonight, just as a note. So at the moment, you guys won't see it. I've activated it already. But from tonight, you're going to be getting it. So you'll see there's a little integrations tab on my practice settings here. And what I can go and do is it's going to say, okay, I want to connect my Draftworx to another service, and I choose to create a connection. Now, at the moment, we've got two connections, Carbon and GreatSoft. So GreatSoft's going to go live tonight. Carbon, if anyone is using Carbon, please send us your details. We're just going to run through a beta period that's required by them. And if you want to be part of that beta, just let us know. Then we just send it to them and they can activate your account so that you can actually use this on Draftworx. So if you are using Carbon, just shout. You can probably even send us a message now. I think Clarissa can grab that information and send it to us later. But for today, I'm going to use GreatSoft. Like I said, this is going to go live tonight, so it should be ready. So I choose that. I'm going to say create. Now, it's going to ask me to put in my GreatSoft site URL. Everyone who is using GreatSoft, you will have this. And I'm going to just put in mine. And it does a little pop-up. This pop-up is a bit big. I'm just going to quickly resize it a bit. But it doesn't want to be resized. Okay, I'll try and show it to you guys as much as I can. It takes a second or two, so it connects to this, and I'm just going to move this down. So you can see, sorry, that doesn't allow me to resize their screen, but essentially I just need to allow the access for Draftworx. So I'm going to say allow access, and then it says, cool, it's now connected. Takes me back to Draftworx. Let me just reposition this nicely again. But now you can see it's actually I have an active connection with GreatSoft that is essentially available. So what does this mean? Well, what it does is, I'm just going to reload the site quickly. And what it now does is, when I add a client, you can see I've got a little additional thing here that says apply CRM data. And what's nice with this is if I hover it, it's going to tell me, okay, one of the sources is obviously GreatSoft. So you can have multiple sources as well if you want. I simply click on that. And again, if I have multiple sources, I can choose my source. I am then going to search for a client here. So in this case, I'm going to search for Mario and Luigi's karting. And I can just say search. And what it does is it connects up with my file on GreatSoft. I can choose it. So just click on that. And now it's going to show me the connections or the details that it has picked up from my GreatSoft file. So depending on how much info you have in GreatSoft itself or which provider you're using, obviously Carbon has different information than GreatSoft and so on. So depending on the information that you're using, it's going to populate the data for our client practice. And you can see it's only showing me the changes. So it's showing me the things where currently, obviously, I have nothing because it's a new client. And this is the info that it's picking up. There is a whole lot of additional things that we can connect to depending on how your file is set up. This file I set up very briefly, so obviously it's not pulling in a lot. But now I can just say import. And what this does is it's not going to change anything. It's just going to tell you, okay, the loaded fields, it's now loaded the fields from the CRM, and it's supplied the information. What it did do is my client name did get automatically set over here. I can still go ahead and, as normal, go create this file. I'm just going to create it for 1 year back, and I'm going to add client. Now what it's done is when I add this client, we're just taking out the step of me going to have to worry about the client setup. Because if I now go into client setup, you'll see it's brought in the name, obviously, the addresses, and all of the other information that I would have had in my GreatSoft file. We import that data. So it's just a nice time saver, as I mentioned, to try and speed up that process a little bit of actually going in and grabbing all the data for you. And if you have existing files, you can actually also update the data. So as an example, let's hop into my daily slice file. That's the one that I started on Tuesday. If I go to my client setup here, you'll see this one I have not connected, right? I kept it as is. If I now say connect to CRM, what's going to happen is it's going to search it automatically for me. I can select it. And now it's going to show me all of the differences here of information that it will pull in. So you can see it's pulling in a new telephone number that I didn't have. It's pulling in my email. There's a change in the postal address, which is interesting. So it's showing me the current value that I have. And then this is the value in my CRM. And so I can choose, do I accept this? Do I don't, do I leave it and so on. So for example, I don't want to change my legal form of entity or the VAT number. We'll change the postal address and I'm going to just say import. And what it does is you can see there my postal address has updated. And so it's brought in that info. So that's very cool, useful tool that we've been working on. One of the nice things, just as a note for our clients in the UK, we have done an automatic integration in the same manner with the company's house. You don't need to activate it or anything. It will automatically be part of the file. And then we grab the information from the company's house in the similar way that I've done now. So it should save you guys the time setting up on your side. It's just the same process. When you create a client, click there and go and just search the company. Let's say Draftworx, and you'll see we'll actually pick up, there's some Draftworx companies that's listed in the UK. And I can go click on those and it will basically pull in the information for me. So fantastic. All right. Those are a few of the basics that I wanted to cover. The one other thing to just show you, and I'm going to mention it again because it's one of the tools that's very useful, is the direct imports that we have available. So I did it on Tuesday where I directly imported from Sage Online, Xero, or QuickBooks. We can do those direct imports, right? We brought in the trial balance directly from there. I want to emphasize for anyone who does have those, if your client is using those, please try and use it. It's going to make your life so much easier. We're really adding functionality there because the systems can speak to each other. You can go and inspect things easier, like we did, the other day. We were able to do an opening balance check that helped us fix our retained earnings. We can post journals back, which I also showed to you guys. And the one other thing that I didn't actually show on Tuesday is you're actually able to inspect the GLs as well. And what you can do here is, let's say I'm working on a file, right? I'm picking up that there was a movement of some kind in my PPE. Now, I don't know what that movement was. Was it, new purchases, disposals, whatever it might be. One of the things that's so nice getting the GL directly from Draftworx is if let's go to my motor vehicles, and I hover over this little number, you can see it goes blue. If I hold the control button in on my keyboard and click on it, it runs a GL essentially test to go and grab that, and it goes and grabs the GL from Sage in this case. And you can see here it's saying there was an opening balance. That's obviously from the last year. And there you can see there was a new car purchase, and it makes it so much easier for me to know what the movement was. I don't have to go and go and pop open my different accounting system, log in, okay, find the thing, cool. Then I go find it. We can do it directly from Draftworx. Saves a whole bunch of time, and we are also looking at additional improvements here, hoping in the near future that we can actually start automating a whole bunch of things for you. And hopefully January I can show you guys that. It's very exciting stuff that's being looked at there. But that's just the one thing I wanted to mention with that direct import. It's extremely useful to use it. It just helps you check and balance and make sure everything makes sense when you are importing from those accounting systems. Okay, so now going back to our daily slice file. We're going to try and make it practical. And what I've done is I sent this off to my auditor, and they sent back a little review. So I'm going to go to the client portal because they sent me the review in the client portal. The baker's man is our auditor. And you can see he sent me a little PDF review over here. And so I'm going to just click on that, and we can see he sent us a whole long document of changes that he would want. So a whole bunch of change requests. And we're going to run through these change requests today. As I said, we're trying to approach it in a very practical manner. And we quite often get this kind of thing, obviously, when we're working through on files. So that's what we're going to run through today. I'm going to somewhere grab this file on my side. I'll send it to Draftworx. So I want to go and get my review file. I'm just going to take the audit report as well. I'm sure I'm going to need to use it now as well. So I just tick both of these on my side, and I can say choose option. And I'm going to say send selected to Draftworx. And I just need to choose my engagement. So I'm going to say the 2026 engagement and the folder where I want it to go and live. So let's go and just put these in my documents. And I'll just say OK. So that sends those files off to Draftworx. If I then on my side just refresh the file quickly, I should see, there you go, there's that review and the audit report both. And so I can go and pop that open, and we can start figuring out what we need to do to fix up this file. So we're going to go through a few basic things. So let's quickly pop open our working trial balance and go and pop open our financial statements. And we start working through on any fixes that we might need. So one of the things, first thing that's mentioned over here, please split. Our pizza and our super mushrooms, they are two different income streams, and so we want to show them on separate income statements. Okay, so what we're looking at here is if we've got two different income streams, so we've got the pizza sales, we've got the super mushroom sales, we want to show those separately with their allocated expenses. So obviously one of the nice things we can do just to show clients specifically, oh, this is actually making you good money or this one isn't, right? So how do we do that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to create additional detailed income statements. And the way we do that, we're going to go to the working trial balance. And here's our two items. And now at the moment, they're both going to the same place. And I want to move the super mushrooms off to its own. And the way to do it is I go to type over here, and I can actually just say type. And rather than the normal income statement, we can go to income statement 2. And what that means is, that means that now it's going to split them from each other. And anything else that I put against income statement 2, right? So let's say there I've got my cost of sales that I want to split out as well. And maybe there's some repairs and maintenance that's specifically linked to just that income stream. I can split those out as well. And what we get is we can now obviously get a nice, more defined expenses from like a specific area that my client is working. So a lot of clients do it for, if they're splitting income streams, or maybe it's locations. A guy's got 2 restaurants and he wants to see how they are doing separately. So there's quite a few very useful things that you can do there. And what you'll see, the system has done, it's got our main detailed income statement. This is still the full combined set. So it's got my pizza sales, my mushroom sales, and the sale of goods for both of them. All right. But now I've got 2 additional sheets that the system has created. It's a detailed IS1 and detailed IS2. And here you can see it's now split out, where detailed IS1 would be my pizza sales plus all of the expenses and so on related to it. And then detailed IS2 is now the mushrooms, the sale, and I put one of the repairs maintenance there as well. And so it allows me to split out, and I can very nicely visualize, okay, this profit, what's my profit ratio for this sales stream and so on. You can get some real nice data that you can actually give to your client and advise them on. So cool, perfect. That is one of the things that has been requested. Let's take a look at my other things. Right, so next on the list, okay, other income is only showing plumbing. The Yoshi rides should be separate. So let's take a quick check there. So we can see on the main detailed income statement, we have other income and we do only have plumbing classes. And if we want to see, okay, is this both amounts, we can actually use the little drill down button. The drill down button shows me the accounts in my working TB that total to this value over here, this cell. So that 29,000 is made up of 17,000 for plumbing classes, but then also 12,000 for the Yoshi rides. And we want to split this one out. So let's take a quick look. Jumping back to our working trial balance, both of these have been linked, right, to OI for other income .250. Now, if everyone remembers from Tuesday, what we did there is we said there are umbrella sections, right? So the umbrella in this case on our link list is the 250. If we look at the full link list, the 250 means it's going to combine those items on our on our set of financials, right? So if I want to move this 250, let's just move out one of these into its own section. So I'm going to move out, let's say, the Yoshi rides, click on that, and instead of putting it in, other income, non-turnover related, let's just move that to something. So for Yoshi rides, we're charging a fee, right? So let's just say fees received. And we can say fees received, and we can use this one. So now, because we are no longer saying our umbrella account, the 250, it's now 205. So it's a different one. Because we now have a different one, it will actually split that out on my financials. I'm just going to update the wording here to also show Yoshi rides instead of like just fees received. And if I now go and refresh, it should split out my other income. So we can have a look and just check a second, and it pulls through. There you go, and you can see it split out those 2 items now for me. So it's just a useful tool if you do have to split things out. Remember what we spoke about in our linking when we did that earlier on Tuesday, and remember that those overarching things very oftentimes means that it's going to combine the figures on the financials. All right. Let's take a look at what's next on our list. Please make sure the cash note shows the bank details. So cash note, how do we get to the cash note? Because we've got a whole bunch of note sheets, right? I've got note sheet 1, 2, and 3. So I don't want to struggle to find anything. So one of the fastest ways to get around on the financials, I always jump to like my statement of financial position or comprehensive income, and I'll scroll through and I'd essentially say, okay, we're looking for cash and cash equivalents note, and we just click on the blue hyperlink and it jumps me to my note. That's the way that I would usually navigate. And now to split out the actual detail as mentioned in that request, what we're going to do is we're going to go to detail of cash and cash equivalent balances. We pop this open. You can see I can go and show the detail of the bank balances here. And if I want this to actually show the bank name, I just need to go and update my working trial balance, right? So if I scroll down, it's just saying bank balances there. Let's just change that to say Bowser Bank. Again, we're just updating that disclosure description, and it allows me to change the wording there. Okay, while that loads, I'm going to hop back here so long. Let's see what the next thing is. Okay, please upload the bank statement and the fixed asset register to the file. Okay, so the auditor wants access to the supporting documents, right? So we need to quickly just upload those. So Mario said he's uploaded to the client portal. Fantastic. Let's quickly use the client portal. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to duplicate the tab. It's just something nice I've seen. It allows you to duplicate without losing your place. I hate losing my place on tabs. So anyway, use that. And I'm going to say, okay, so Mario has apparently uploaded it. Perfect. Let's go and take a look. I'm going to go to client uploads. So anything that my client uploads generally goes and sits here. And here I can see a whole bunch of things that's been uploaded by Mr. Mario. We've got our fixed asset register. We also have our Bowser bank statement. So those are the two that we want. I'm going to, again, just tick those both and send them back to Draftworx. Send selected to Draftworx. And again, just make sure we select our correct file. And I'm going to put these in working papers, right? Because they're the proofs for us. Fantastic. So we've sent them back. And what we now need to do is we actually need to reference those on our leads, right? So please reference and sign off the leads for bank and PPE. Okay, so how do we do this? Firstly, I want to navigate to my actual lead. So I'm going to go to my statement of financial position again. The easiest way to find your lead is on the statement of financial position or comprehensive income. And what you would see there is you've got the note, and that we've now shown, it jumps you to the note. But right next to that, you've got these little numbers. If you've never used them before, they are there for your leads. And so what I can do is I can go and say, cool, let's go to the PPE lead, because obviously my fixed asset register needs to link to that. So I'm going to click on this 30.02, and it goes and it pops open my PPE lead, where it shows me my different accounts and the link that they've been linked to. If there are multiple accounts linked to one of these, it will kind of duplicate them for you. But what I can do here is now I can add the proofs for the numbers that I have here for the auditor, right? Because I need to be sure, like, are these final figures actually correct? How do I check it? I've gone through, I've got my fixed asset register that I've gone and made, and we got that from the client, and that's our proof. So now I want to reference it here. All right, so the way that we do this is we're going to click on this button, hyperlinks, and we can say show or hide hyperlinks. Or alternatively, you'll see there is a little shortcut to the hyperlinks over here as well. And if I click on this, it gives me this little pop-up. And what this is this is now going to show me essentially the working papers in this file. All right. So one thing we just need to double check quickly. I just need to quickly run a refresh because I pulled it in from the client portal. So just to get that info, we just need to quickly run that. But that's fine. I'm going to just go back to the PPE lead over here, and I am going to go to my hyperlinks, and this time we should see them. Oh, there you go. So there's my fixed asset register. Fantastic. Now, how do I get it here? Very simply, click on the cell that you want it, double click on the document that you want to link to it. And you can see it pulls it through. Really, really simple. And I'm actually going to link it to all of these because they're all the same. I can change the name as well, or the text that it shows. If I don't want to just say fixed, I can just say, let's say, fixed asset register. And we can change it there. The text doesn't matter. The linking will stay. I can copy and paste it across as well. And if I then click on those, what it does is it actually jumps and opens up my fixed assets register for me, where I can now go investigate. Cool. There's my costs, total 415. Let's jump back. Oh, yes, it is 415. Perfect. Accumulated depreciation, 179, 179. And that's the idea about these. And we can essentially do the same with pretty much any of these. You'll see the lead schedules are listed here as well. So if I don't want to open up my financials to link through them, I can also do it here. So let's go and link that bank balance. So my bank balance, same concept. I've got for my Bowser Bank, I've got myself a PDF review there. And we're going to just run through and do the same thing. There's the statement, double click, and you can see what the system does. It does take the first essentially word before a space when it uses the text that it decides to put in. So this case, it's obviously just saying Bowser. I can change that to whatever. And again, if I click on that, jumps me through. I can make sure, cool, there's my Bowser Bank and my final closing balance, 991,842. And we can just go and jump back. There might be an issue there because it's a little bit different to this. So I would need to go investigate that. But that's the point. That's why we do these essentially checks, so that we can make sure that we are 100% correct. We're sending through a nice set of financials. All right. So that's done. I've pushed those through. Let's take a look at what's next, right? So we've done up to 5. We need to do a journal. Please raise a journal for an additional pizza oven asset that was added for some additional parts of 20,000 Rand. There's an invoice that was dated 28 Feb that we just discovered. Update the asset register as well. Okay, cool. So let's quickly go and do that. So how are we going to do it? We need to raise a journal, and then we need to go through and do that. So let's go and raise that journal first. Very simply, we're going to go to our, jump to the working TB. Let's jump to the journal entries there. And I'm going to raise a new one. So this was found asset. We can give it a reference. And I'm just simply, very, very simply going to say, okay, what is it? This is for my pizza oven assets, right? So we're going to say search pizza. There's my pizza oven cost. We're going to add 20,000 to that cost. Whoops, that's 25. Let me just change that. And then we can just also add whatever it might be that was, So I'm going to keep it simple today. Let's just say it is accounts payable. And we can put. So we need to go do that. Cool. Save. Boom. Pizza oven, saved through. And now that's immediately going to affect my working TB. We know how to do this. We did in the basics. One of the things that I want to show you, though, is we are able to edit your other items as well. So I uploaded this, fixed asset register. What's nice is because it is an Excel-based document, I can go and edit it in Draftworx. So I can go to my pizza oven, and I can go and say, oh, you know what, on the 28th of Feb, there was, I don't know, new parts added, right? And it was 20,000. I can choose the dep rate, and I can simply go and add it in here. And it goes and updates everything that I want. There's no depreciation yet, and we can go from there. And so we can go and update this fixed asset register that we got from the client in Draftworx without worrying too much about it. And so that's one of the nice things that we can just go and sort out and go from there. Something to remember is, because we have now changed our asset register, we're going to need to go and take a double look check and make sure our PPE recons again, right? Because remember, we added now an additional amount. And so in this case, very simple fix. I'm just going to go here to my pizza oven, and instead of 27,000, it's obviously 47,000. And so we updated status, balances out immediately, perfection, and I'm happy to go on. So that's that. Quite simple. And let's take a look at what our next thing is. That should be good. Next thing, for going concern, please add this as a specific disclosure. And then I've gotten text. Okay, cool. So there's exact text that I've received here from the auditors that they want for my going concern. Perfectly fine. Remember, we can go and edit these paragraphs quite easily. So here I've got a Draftworx paragraph. Now you'll see the Draftworx paragraph it's a formula. So it's a little bit complex. So I don't want to go and mess with it. Generally, we don't want to edit the Draftworx formulas unless you're very comfortable with Excel. They do follow the same Excel rules and the same Excel principles. So if you are comfortable with Excel, you're welcome to go and edit it. In this case, I don't feel too comfortable today. I'm going to just take out this little hello because I kept it there for earlier. And I'm going to paste it in. Now, something extremely important that I want to highlight here. And it's something we're looking at to improve. But at the moment, we see it happening sometimes. And it sometimes happens, it sometimes doesn't. It depends on the PDF. This PDF, right? Look at this when I double click on my formula. It's a little bit odd, right? I've got like the director have expanded operations, intend to ensuring ongoing operations as a result of, and then there's this weird like space, and then there's accountants being driven by coffee and scrumptious treats, blah, blah, blah. So we've got that. So there's this weird space that's almost happened. And if we were to run the preview, and I'm going to just print preview this sheet, it can cause my preview to visually look odd as well. Just see, let it run. There you go. So you can see it looks a bit strange here, right? Where the rest of my paragraphs run across the whole page. This one is cutting off. They're at that exact same spot, right? The results of. And why did that happen? Okay. It's because of the PDF that I grabbed it from. If you look at this PDF, it ends at the same place that Draftworx is now cutting off. So there's the results of. It is what gets them. And if we look at this, it's cutting off in exactly the same places. Same with if I go back to my my financials, right? If we double click, you can see it cuts them off. Results of, it's what gets them. And the reason for that is when I copy from the PDF is actually inserting a little special character here at the end of the row, and it's called a line break. So it looks like a space, you know, when I normally look at it here, but in fact it is actually a line break. And so we're copying and pasting it in, and those line breaks get copy and pasted back to Draftworx as well. And so if you ever see something like that, the easiest fix, it's really simple. Double click on that, go to where it ends strangely, right? So in this case, that of, click delete on your keyboard and just add a normal space. And then the same back here gets them, delete and space. As soon as I do that, it's going to fix the problem. You can see at the top here, it also flows nicely now. And so I wouldn't have that. Be aware of it. It is something that we see popping up now and then, especially if you're copy pasting from PDFs. We're looking at a nice way to improve it, but at the moment, the way that we can improve it's going to break other things, and so we need to work around it a little bit. But yeah, be aware of that one. We do see it happening quite often. Okay, cool. I've pasted that in. Next thing, can we please have 2 pages for the audit report? The auditor is going to provide the detail later, and they are also going to make sure that their designation is correct. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, so designation here is the Chief Baking Officer. He's our baker's man, our auditor, so we'll just need to update that. And then we need to make sure the audit report has all of the information in correctly as well. If we look at our report audit sheet, at the moment, it's pulling through the grain and gain accounting, it's pulling through my address, Christu, and all of that. So it's not actually pulling in the information of the auditor. However, when we initially set up this client in the client setup, we scroll down to the firm details. We have put in the additional practices info, right? We've put in the name, the address. We actually put in the designation there, so my as well, Chief Baking Officer, and we need to go and enter all of that. So we've put it in, but it's not pulling through to my audit report. And why is that? Well, we need to tell Draftworx it should be using the additional practice over here for the audit report. And very simply, the way we do it is if we go to template tools, we are going to go and say apply additional practice. And it's going to go through. It takes a second or two to load, and you'll see it's changed all of the information, proof and crumb audit, the baker's man, and the address has now been updated. And so all of that information pulls through. If we refresh the tab, because we did update our client setup, it's now going to go and refresh, and I'm sure that it will pull in the designation of the baker's man as well. And so, yeah, just be aware of that. Very useful tool if you are doing a whole bunch of files for auditors. There you go. Pulled through Chief Baking Officer, and it's all there. Fantastic. All right, next on our list. So we're happy with that. Oh, one thing we have to do is make sure that it's 2 pages. Okay, so how do we do that? So sometimes it might run over 2 pages automatically already. But if I'm not 100% certain, so let's say I've closed all of this, I'm just showing this. The way that I can force it to be 2 pages, and the reason we need to do that, right, is if I'm sending the file off to the auditor, they want to make sure their page numbering is right and all of those kind of things. And so sometimes we just need to go and make sure that that's the case. So I'm going to go click on this little plus, and here you can see it says expand this section to create blank pages for the audit report. And we essentially, if the audit report is super long, let's say they want 4 pages, I'm just going to keep popping these open. And we've just built it in place. It makes it nice and easy. The system just goes and adds a page break for each of these. And so now if I were to run my preview, we're going to have a 4-page audit report. So if you do need that, just be aware of it. You can always go and find it in my audit report itself to automatically expand it as needed. Perfect. So this is done. Number 8. Cool. We're flying through this, guys. Thanks. Looking good. We should make some good progress, although there are some big changes that we're going to go and do. All right, the next option. There was an investment in M&L Karting, and that's actually a subsidiary, right? And I think we haven't disclosed it correctly. So let's go and take a look, jump in here. Now, we can approach this, obviously, from the working TB. Let's just go and grab that link, and we can search here, M&L, and there's investment M&L Karting, and we've taken it to listed investments. So we want to obviously change this. And I'm just going to copy that so long. Click on that. And as always, let's change this. And to change it to a new account, we're going to go to, what are they called? It's a subsidiary. So we're going to say related parties. We can search here. Scroll through this list. This is an asset. It's related parties receivables. I am looking in the wrong place. That's fine. I'm going to find it now. There you go. Subsidiaries. Ah, of course. I'm searching related parties instead of subsidiaries. Fantastic. Related part there, investment in subsidiary, and we're just going to say, we're going to say M&L Karting. Perfect. And we're going to use that select. And that should also update. Now, important thing to be aware of when we do make updates like this, it's always very important to go back to our status sheet. Why is that? Because it could be changing, it could be throwing things out, right? We were perfectly balanced earlier on our status. Let's jump back and we can see clearly there's a bit of an issue, right? So those are the kind of things just to be aware of. And I'm going to go back to this because there's some additional cash flow things we'll need to fix later. So I'm going to come back to this one. But it's something to be aware of. Whenever you change your linking, it has a possibility to affect our status. So always run back to this, double check, make sure that everything is balancing and everything is correct. All right, going on from there, let's take a look at the next item. To match the group, please combine admin and other expenses on the SOCI. Okay, so this is something we see that pops up very often in the Draftworx report, because what we do by default is on our statement of comprehensive income, we've got admin expenses and we've got other expenses. Now, some people don't want to show 2 lists of expenses. They just want everything under other expenses. So how do we do that? Because we've seen it so often in Draftworx, we don't want you to worry about going to modify formulas. Because remember, if you aren't logged in, you are not able to actually go and change these formulas. They're locked down, right? So if I try type, nothing will happen here. And even if I try double click, like I can't double click on them, nothing like that. So these are locked formulas. So instead of having to worry, especially if you're like a clerk or something like that, because now if a clerk wouldn't be able to unlock formulas because I'm the partner, I can unlock and I would be able to edit it if I wanted to. But I don't want to edit the Draftworx formulas because if I break something, it's a mission to fix next year. And so what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go to the client setup. And like I said, for this one specifically, we brought it in because people were asking for it very regularly. If we go to our layout customization, we can actually go here and there's a little button that says merge admin and distribution costs. And if I tick this, it's really as simple as that. Now what has happened, if I go back and refresh, we have gone and we will automatically go and combine those two expenses for you. So instead of having admin expenses and other expenses, we now just have other expenses and everything's been combined into that. So a useful tool, be aware of it. You don't need to go and mess with the formulas. If you are ever at a place, I always recommend this. If you're ever at a place where you feel I need to go and start changing the Draftworx formulas for any reason, first hop onto our support and ask them, listen, I need to do X, Y, and Z. Is it possible? Do I have to customize? Maybe there's a setting for it. Because we have got, if you have that question, we've probably been asked this question before. We deal with thousands and thousands of practices. And so most of the time, people ask us things. And if people ask us enough times, we go and build a setting for it to make life easier for you. And go and ask our support guys first. And they're going to hopefully be able to just show you, oh, there's a quick thing. And if they aren't able to show you a quick fix for it, maybe what's going to end up happening is we're going to end up building a quick fix for it, and then you're going to have it as well. So just be aware of that. Something that happens quite often, and it's a nice little tool that we can use here. Perfect. Okay, next thing on our list. There was an issue on the capital. Please make sure it's disclosed correctly on the SOCE. This is actually a repeat. We did cover this one very quickly on Tuesday, where the statement of changes in equity is showing other changes not yet reconciled. And I'm going to repeat it again just because it's popped up quite a few times. But what it is we highlight any movements that has happened in your equity accounts that hasn't been given a specific name. Like it needs to be, we need to know, you need to disclose what has actually happened to move this equity account. Because when an equity account moves, it can't just move randomly. We need to go and record it, right? So in this case, it is on our issue of capital. You can see there it is, other changes not yet reconciled, red item on our issue of capital. So, or our issued capital, rather. So the client or the auditor has now told us and said that this is specifically an issue of capital. So they've made it easy for us. They've told us what it is. If I didn't know what it is, I'd need to go investigate my financial system and go and see what has actually happened in the GL and investigate it further. In this case, very easy. They've said it is an issue of equity. And so I know it's an issue of equity for 50. So 50 Rand, very simple, boom. And I just type that in. And as soon as I do that, other changes not yet reconciled, this is now gone. And obviously, again, the status page sorts out. So be aware of that one. Pops up quite often if there is some kind of movement. You can't have a movement in your changes of equity without explaining what it is. And you need to be aware of that because it does pop up quite a few times on our side. Perfect. Next thing on our list. So that's sorted. We're making good progress here. But next is, okay, cash flow. On the cash flow, please show the detail of the movements of other financial liabilities in the financing activities. Okay, this is what the heck is even being said here. Let's take a step back. Let's kind of like interpret this a little bit. So on the cash flow, Let's go to Draftworx, set up the cash flow. Cool. Please show the detail of the movements of the other financial liabilities in the financing activities. Okay, so firstly, we're in operations here, so we know we're in the wrong place. Let's scroll down. Past operations. Now we're in investing activities. Okay, that's also not correct. Let's keep going. And now we're in financing activities. Perfect. Okay, so we're in the right place. Financing activities. Now we need to find the other liabilities. Okay, they want to show the detail in other liabilities. What does that even mean? Well, let's scroll down, and here we can see there's a title here. It says proceeds from other financial liabilities. And at the moment, it's like a big sum over here. You'll see there's a little orange heading here that says details of the other financial liabilities can be completed in the grouping below. So if they want the detail, we can do this. So the simple way to activate it, you'll see there's a little plus icon here on the side. Click on that plus. And now what Draftworx does is we are going to hide the summary. It's no longer going to print. You can see it's got those blue lines across it. And we are going to show the detail here, because the detail we can see is made up of loan, lease, obligation repayments, and then also shareholders. Right. So be aware of that. If you do want that extra detail, Draftworx has it for you. It's simply a matter of activating it. We generally try and show the baseline of everything, but you have the possibility to go and add in that extra information. Okay, cool. So we've done that. Additional to that, on the statement, on the cash flow, please split the loan repayments and the loan received amounts for the shareholders. Okay, this one gets a little bit complicated. We're going to take a quick look here, right? So we have the loans received from shareholders. Let's investigate actually what's going on here, right? And I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to again go to drill down. And we can see the loan received from shareholders. It's a total of my shareholders' loans from Miss Peach, Mr. Mario, Miss Peach, and ooh, that one doesn't have a name, but okay, I can see there in the details it's also Mr. Mario. So I can see that there's there's 4 items here. So it's combining essentially both of my shareholders' loans into one single amount. And now the auditors asked me to split it. All right. So let's go to Working TB, and we can go investigate a little bit. I'm going to go down. I'm going to go to my loans. So there's my shareholders' loans. I'm going to search and filter out things over here. 731. Now, what I need to do is I need to investigate this a little further. So I'm going to say, okay, for Mr. Mario, the prior year was 52,000 and the current year is 24,000. Right? So what does that mean? That means we have paid off this loan, right? We've paid off a significant portion of it, right? So what's that? 54,000 or 52,583 minus 24,284, and we can see we paid off 28,000, almost 300, 28,299. Okay. So we realize that's like what we've actually paid off over here. But if we look at the second one, if we look at the loan to Miss Peach, we can see that there we actually received an increase in the loan. So now that's what the auditor is asking us for. The auditor is asking us to actually go and split that. So it's not showing a combined value on my side. And so to do that, let's go back to our financial, and you're going to see in the section here on the cash flow statement, we can see there's the loan received from shareholders and then the repayment of loans from shareholders. So the way we split this out, very simply, we can actually go to these blue cells. Remember, blue cells in Draftworx means you can type into them by default. And I'm going to go and just enter the amount that we have repaid to Mr. Mario, and that is 28,229. Oh, 299. I apologize. And there you go. So now you can see what Draftworx has done is it automatically removes our repayment from this total over here, which combines all of our movements for the shareholders. So it's a very cool little tool. You can always take a look at it. In this case, I'd probably need to do it for the prior year as well. So I can, again, just go investigate that, hop to your prior, and I can go make sure 731. And I can, again, I'm just going to go and do that maths. That is, what's it, 29,818. Okay, so I've made them, that's the payment, repayment back, and then I've 15,000 is our increase in funds. So I'm just going to go, and again, 28 or 29, 28. And there you go. So it does that, and Draftworx kind of automatically splits it out for me. So it's quite a useful thing. Be aware of that. We do see it sometimes where you have to split out items on the cash flow. You have the ability to do it, especially if we have these little blue cells right below the amount. They generally kind of just deduct from it and make it very easy. One of the other things that we can do is we can also move values from one location to another. So just to show a very, very simple example, let's say I wanted to remove some of this interest paid and I want to put it in dividends received. Just as an example, I'm going to type in these yellow cells. These yellow cells can be used for rounding fixes, and they can also be used for moving items in my cash flow. So if I wanted to move, let's say, 5,000 out of my interest paid, I'm going to say 5,000. I'm going to add it here. So now it's taking my interest paid down. But be aware, as soon as I do that, my difference has increased. Okay, it was 67 now it's, or 68 now it's 73. And now what I want to do is I just want to make sure that it balances out again. So I'm going to just move it up here. And you can see as soon as I've done that, it shows it there, it moves it out of this one into that one. Obviously, this is now back to 68. And yeah, we can easily kind of move things around using these yellow cells. Super useful. And the reason we say use the yellow cells, again, even if you are a partner or a manager, don't go and change these formulas. Because you know what happens is if I were to change this formula, let's say instead of doing this, I go and change this formula and I say, at the back here, I'm going to say minus 5,000, right? That kind of thing carries over into my next year. And what happens is next year, somebody else is doing the file. It's not you doing the file anymore. And this minus 5,000 is hidden inside of this interest paid formula. And I'm not going to see it by default, right? Look at that. I don't know that there was an edit done to this. Worse still, if the formulas are locked, double clicking doesn't even show me the detail. I would need to know, to click here and expand it. That's horrible. You're making the work for the next guy extremely difficult, or even for yourself, because 10 to 1, you're going to forget that you just added it 5,000 over here. So be aware of that. Like, try and avoid that. Use the little yellow cells. What's fantastic here, Draftworx 1, it's going to be visible to everybody. So anyone's going to see it, and they know what's happened. So it makes it nice and easy. And 2, what Draftworx will do is we're going to shift these amounts automatically. When you do the roll forward, these 5,000s will automatically shift into the prior year next year. And that means the change that you've gone and done to correct the cash flow gets done, and it gets done automatically in the next year for you. And so it just makes life easier going forward. And so you're doing yourself a favor if you just do it properly in the little yellow cells. Don't go edit the formulas. It's always going to make life a little bit harder in the future. Cool. Let's jump back here quickly. And we just want to see here the next thing. We saw the adjustments for increase in trade accounts payable is 6,224, but we calculated to be 6,222. The difference is immaterial, obviously, but if possible, please adjust. If it's rounding, move it to the income statement. Okay, so let's go investigate what's going on. Why is there a difference of essentially R2 between these two, the adjustments that in the trade payables? Okay, so let's go. We're going to scroll up and we're going to go take a look. Where is my trade payables? There it is. Just want to quickly take a look, and I'm going to drill down, and the drill down shows me that there is rounding that's being taken into account on this line item. You can see there it says current rounding and also gives me the accounts. So that's how I know that where the difference is coming from, right? So that is 26,224 and they calculated 26,222. So that's the two rands essentially coming through from those items there. So how do I move it? Well, I can do this, right? So I can say -2, which gets me there. The problem is that the auditor said, please move it to the income statement. So if it's rounding, move it to the income statement. Now, how do I do that from here? Like, that doesn't make sense, right? The Draftworx, we do rounding for you, right? And if I do go look at that drill down now again, you're going to see it says an explicit value of 2 is actually being deducted as well. So it actually takes into account those yellow cells. If you ever see explicit value, it means it's being typed out. But so I don't want to do that in this case, right? Because to take the rounding to the income statement is going to have a bigger effect on the financials. I can't just fix this one number. I need to take it into account in other places. And that's why we have this little rounding section. Because what it does is it allows me to move my rounding to different locations in my financials. And at the moment you can see it's being taken to my accounts payable. And I want to move it. I'm simply going to say take it to my bank charges. Income statement would be our bank charges. And so I'm just going to click on that. It's going to say it's going to require a refresh. That's perfectly fine. Let's do a quick refresh and we can go investigate and see how it looks. All right, reload and let's go check. Okay, it seems to have moved some of it across. There's probably a little bit of extra rounding there. Oh, the prior rounding is also still here. So be aware of that. Remember, the prior can affect even the current year because we need to take that into account on both sides. So be aware of that. But essentially, I would need to move the rounding of the prior year as well to shift that down. All right, cool. Next item. And lastly, they're just saying, please confirm that the cash flow is still balancing after all of the above changes. Cool. So let's go and take a look. Is it balancing? Scroll to the bottom. It's not balancing. So there's still a difference of 68,000. Status sheet shows me the same. So I know I'm not right there. So how do I go figure out where the 68,000 is coming from? Some of you might have spotted on the cash flow. There's a little bit of a hint. But if I'm not sure at all, one of the things that sometimes helps, it doesn't always help, but it's a little hint that we've seen that helps quite often. If you go to the working TB, clear it. If you filter, right, on your amounts, sometimes if you filter years, I'll say 68,000, sometimes you're going to get a hint to show you what that is. However, I'm not seeing anything in this case. Let me try one other thing. If I go to my grid view, I'm going to say, I want to see columns. And there's one column I'm looking for. And that column is my difference column. Let me see if I can quickly find it there. There you go, difference. Okay. So what does this do? It shows me the difference between my years from one year to the other. Why is it useful? Because that's exactly what the cash flow is. The cash flow is the movement in cash, obviously, from one year to the next. So let's try again. 68. And interestingly enough, I'm not seeing what I thought I'd be seeing. Was it 68,000? It should have been. You know what my mistake is? I'm in the 2025 year. I'm not in the current year. Everyone makes mistakes, guys. Please forgive. We go on from there. Let's go again. 68. This time it actually does resolve quite nicely for me. 68,000. It is my investment. That movement that I had, right, where it used to be listed investments, but now instead it's an acquisition, right? I almost got a new subsidiary, so it's not the listed investment. So that moved, and that's where the problem is coming from. So here, as I said, the guys that had sharp eyes, you would have seen we had it here already showing. Draftworx picks these things up for you. So there was a business combination. So cash flows from losing control of subsidiaries. Okay, we didn't lose control. Cash flow used in obtaining control. That's the right one, right? Because we obtained control of a subsidiary. So how do I get the value over here? There's nothing for me. I don't want to type it in here, right? Because remember, when you use the yellow cells, you generally want to type it in one and deduct from another place. And there's no way to deduct from over here. So I'm going to take a look at this formula. And interestingly enough, this formula, it's not like the rest of my formulas, right? So this has like a name in here, business combinations _ cash for C flow final. All right. If we look at our other formulas, let's go take a look at like a normal one. You can see most of them has the sum if TB link, sum if TB link. Those are formulas that pull data directly from our working trial balance. If the formula looks a little bit different, like this one, business combinations, keep an eye out for that kind of thing. It's going to help you. So what I can do now is, this is a named range. Now for the guys who are Excel experts, you know what it is. But a named range is a thing where instead of a cell to say, you know, this is cell number D83, a named range is if I give my cell a name. So I can say that instead, this is actually, this cell has a name, right? It's the net cash flows used in operating activities. First, I don't know what the rest is, but that's what my cell name is. So this is actually a named range. So this is referring to a named range as well. So let's go and find it. Nice way to find the name ranges, design, and you go to name manager. And here I can actually search my names. So I'm going to go and search that business combinations, and I can see it's actually on notes 3. So that's my sheet. And then the L1667. So that's the cell number, L1667. So let's go there. Notes 3. We're in column L, and we're down quite a bit. If you want to scroll really fast, one of the things you can do is, if you hold Control in on your keyboard, it gives you like a super speed scroll. So you can use it your side. Quite nice. And then what did we say? We said 1667. So it's going to be here in this business combinations note. And now we know where we can go. Let's quickly take a look at these headings. And there we can see there's a heading, net cash flow from acquisition of subsidiaries. Perfect. That's what I want. And we paid a consideration, obviously, 68,000. Type it in here. Jump back to the cash flow. Oops, typed it in the wrong way around. I did a positive, should be negative, right? It's cash flow. And there you go. That looks a little bit better. Let's scroll down, see if we're lucky. Difference 0. Things are looking good, right? Status 0. Cash flow is looking a lot better now. So that's fantastic, right? That is essentially a very complex cash flow that we've tackled a bit now, and we've gotten it right. Takes a bit of time, takes a bit of work, but be aware of it. Look at the formulas, don't edit them, look at them, read them, use the little yellow cells. You can move things around, you can do all those kind of things. So you're welcome to go ahead and do that. I'm quickly going to touch on 2 questions that came in through the Q&A. Thanks so much for asking. So one of the questions was just how we can increase or add additional lines for multiple bank accounts in the notes. All right. That's more than those that's part of the standard. So let's take a quick look at that. So if we look at the standard cash and cash equivalents note in Draftworx. And we have a look here. You can see at the moment, we only have space for 5 banks. All right. So we want to increase this. Now, we don't want you to go and insert rows here or worry about anything like that, because you're obviously going to have, a lot of the time, you'll have those different bank accounts in your working trial balance, right? So if you want to show that detail, one of the tools we have under template tools, you'll see we've got an option that says add links. And what that does, if I do select it, it has a big thing here, and it says essentially I can increase all kinds of things in Draftworx. So I can increase the mortgage bonds from 5 to 50, finance lease receivables, finance lease liabilities, dividends, all kinds of things. So what we're going to do, we can, again, you've got the little orange bars, so we can simply search. So here I am going to say, let's say cash, or should we say bank? There you go. Increase bank accounts from 5 to 25. And we're going to use that, tick that, and just say apply. And it does give you a big warning, because what it does, and just to be aware of this, it does do quite a big change on our side. We're going to go and insert a lot of formulas. We're going to customize quite a bit for you. So be aware of it. But in this case, I'm happy with it. I'm going to run it. And what it does is actually does 2 things. The first thing that it does is it will actually increase your links themselves on the working trial balance. And then additionally, it also goes and adds the formulas inside of the notes. So if I go take a quick look at my working TV again, and I now go and say show hide link numbers. And I'm going to just say bank balance. You'll see we used to only have 5. Now we've gone all the way up to 25. So that increases there. And then in the same manner, as I said, on the financials themselves, if I again just quickly hop to my cash and cash equivalents, you'll see now that we actually have a lot more bank balances, right? So we had up to 5. Now we've got all the way up to 25 again. And that's like automatic. So the system adds that in for you. It will make sure that it affects your cash flow, it affects the statement of financial position, all of those things. Because obviously having it just on the notes isn't really the key. You might want to have it, or you do want it to actually affect all over the place. And so that's one of the things that that we've got on our side. Essentially, you can just run it from template tools and then add links. You have that same thing on the working trial balance itself. If you go to the working trial balance, you'll see on the side here, we've got add links as well. Exactly the same thing. You just choose, okay, I just need to say I want it on those financials. And then again, I can go and add it if I want to. So be aware of that. Super useful. Yeah, saves quite a bit of time. The other question that we had as well is if you have your shareholders and you want to kind of sort them, I see, in order of percentage. Generally, I'd probably say you do that on the client setup. That's the easiest option. So on the client setup, if I go to my my secretarial info, that's obviously where my directors and shareholders are. If you want to sort that, you can drag these around. And however they're sorted over here is how they show up on the financials. So if I go to like my directors report, you'll see, okay, at the moment it's Ms. Peach and then Mr. Mario for the directors because they're in that order. If I were to switch this, then hop back to here and refresh, it's going to switch them around. So that's probably the easiest way to do that. By default, yeah, the one thing just to be aware of, obviously, now the person that is signing will be Mr. Mario. So just be aware of that. Or, well, both of them by default, but he's going to be signing first, obviously. But yeah, so I hope that answers your 2 questions. If you do struggle with anything like that as well, you are always welcome to hop onto the support. They'll show you how to do it, and they'll actually try and teach you, so you don't have to kind of repeatedly come back to support. you do it once off and kind of go from there. So yeah, hope that helped. And then we're going to continue with the rest of our report that we received from our auditor, right? So we have actually gone and balanced our cash flow. So it looks fantastic. It looks like that's the last question around cash flow, hopefully, and we can move on with our lives. All right, question 16. Please update the finance lease note to show that it is secured over the pizza oven with a net book value of 158,950 and it's repayable within 12 months. Okay. Also, it says put a reference to the PPE note there and also ensure it's classified as current. Okay. So auditors asked us for a couple of things. Let's quickly take a look. Okay. So first thing, they want us to show how this finance lease is actually secured. All right. So we're going to go into Draftworx. We're going to go to our statement of financial position, finance lease, liabilities. I'm going to scroll down. There's my finance lease obligations. And we're going to jump using the note. And there it is. Okay, cool. Now, something important with the finance leases, and it's pretty much like that for all of our different loans, either loans out or in, to be honest. The directors have the same. The mortgage bonds have the same, all of that. One of the requirements that the standards have is generally that we should be saying how are we going to repay this thing, and again, if it is actually if it is secured by something, and that's what this is exactly is what I have to do here. I need to just simply say that this loan, I'm going to just say, I'll take the it. So it is secured over a pizza oven with a net book value of blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Perfect. Double click there. So I'm going to change it. I'm going to say this finance lease is secured over a pizza oven with a net book. Hey, remember what we had earlier when we copy pasted from the PDF? Same thing as before, right? So I'm just going to go delete. And let's take a quick look if that looks good to me. It does look fine. Yeah, that should be fine. So now it should display nicely. Cool. So first section done and dusted. All right. That is secured. Put a reference there to the PPE note. Okay. How are we going to do that? So what I'm assuming they want here is they want to refer to probably say something like note 3, I think. I think that's the PPE note number. Let's go take a look. Okay, it's number 4. Okay, cool. So they wanted to say note 4. Now, I can go do this, right? I can go type it in. The problem with typing it in that we sometimes find is let's say I go to accounting policies and for some reason I'm just going to close the general information. Boom. Then my basis of preparation becomes 1. My PPE note moves from being 4 to 3. And now this is incorrect. And sometimes what happens, obviously, we're working on a file. We hard code things like this. We type in values and then we change things and we don't go back to those hard coded values. And that's why we don't want to type in things directly, especially if they're things that can change in future. In my head, what I always try and do is if something is able to change as I work on this file, do I want that to be hard-coded, or should I try and build it in a way that is dynamic? Dynamic meaning we're actually going to go and let it be modified itself, essentially. So let's take a look at this. So I can turn this hard-coded note 4 into actually something that is dynamic. The way that we're going to do it is we can jump to our notes, and I actually want to use this 4.1. I don't want to use this 4. I'm going to say 4.1 so it shows specifically where it is. So I am going to use what we called name ranges, right? So earlier we spoke about named ranges when we were looking at the cash flow. Remember, we looked at our named range in this formula, and we were able to find where it's pulling from because of that name range. Now what we're going to do is we're going to switch that around. So instead of using an existing name range that Draftworx has, we are going to create one. And I'm going to create one by going to the cell that I want it to be. And I go to Design. And under Design, there's an option that says Create Named Range. All right. Now, before you go create a name range, have a quick think of what you want to call it. So what do I want to call this? I don't want to just do anything. So I'm going to say, let's be quite specific here today. So we're going to say, we want to call it, I don't know, let's say pizza oven, shortening that here. And an important thing to remember with name ranges, you don't want spaces. So I put an underscore in there. So pizza oven, and we're going to say net book value. Okay. I'm not going to do that. I know it's not 100%. Maybe we can add a thing there that says note. So now we know that's pointing to the pizza oven's net book value note where that information sits. So I'm going to go to the note. I'm going to click on that, and I'm actually going to go and say create name range. And in here, I can simply go and type that in, right? So pizza oven net book value note. The scope is workbook, that we can leave as is. The refers to we can leave as is because it refers to cell C15 on the note sheet. And I'm going to just say OK. So what has happened now? You can see if I click on this, it's actually showing me that. So now I know that this cell has received the name range, right? So again, if we click on, let's say this land, you can see, okay, that one's fine. Let's click there. There you go. We'll click on this balances for the year end amounts. And it says D15. So why is that? Because it's column D, row 15. So that's D15. This one, however, is now showing that because I've given it a name. What's nice about this? If I were to move around my sheets, or if I were to maybe insert rows or anything like that, name ranges stay consistent. They don't move, because obviously if I inserted a sheet and there was a reference to D15 somewhere, and now I insert some rows, this becomes D16, for example, and now my formula breaks. And that's what's nice about these name ranges. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to use this name range. So how am I going to use it? So very simply, I can actually go and say equals, and I'm going to say PO underscore, and you can see actually as I've typed, it's kind of giving me an option already. So the system's giving me a whole bunch of things. As I build my formula, it's trying to assist, and I can actually just click on that if I want to use that. So I can do that. Fantastic. So we can say that's fine. So let me just move it to here. So we can say equals PO underscore. I'm going to use that. I'm going to just get rid of these. So that's great and all. It looks fine there, but I want the word note in front. Now this is where your Excel skills come into play. We're going to go in the front. We're going to put a quotation mark, and we're just going to type in note. We're going to put in a space and then close that quotation mark. And you can see it turns green. What does that mean? It means it's hard-coded text that it's going to insert here. Now, the last thing that I want to do here is I want to put in an AND symbol. Because what I'm saying is I'm building a formula that says put in my note, and then after that, put in the value that you receive from this name range. I'm going to press enter. You can see it says note, and I can go and tweak this if I want. I want to put it in the center of the cell to the right, wherever I want it. And that's pretty much it. So there I've gone and actually inserted a name range. Makes it very useful. You can do name ranges. You can create amounts. You can link name ranges to certain amounts and all kinds of things. So it's really flexible and versatile in terms of what name ranges can do to make your life a little bit easier in Draftworx. All right. Then let's go to the next thing on our list. Please add a note before the other income note, showing the gross profit for each income stream, and then also insert the attached statistics table information as a note below that. Make sure each year is on its own page. Okay, So that's quite a bit. It's a chunky one there. Let's start with the start, right? So we need to go and make a note before other income that shows the gross profit for each income stream. Okay, so how are we going to do it? Let's jump to our notes 3. Notes 3 is where all of our income statement items live. And we can scroll down. There's other income. Cool. So we've got other income. So we need to add a note here in front of it. And that needs to show our gross profit for each income stream. Okay. So we're going to go here and I'm going to insert some things. All right. So I'm going to go insert row because I now need to insert rows and go and do some edits. So insert row, let's insert 10 rows. And we're going to go and say insert. And we've inserted now, but it hasn't changed. One of the things to be aware of, what happens when I insert with groupings, right? So you can see we have a grouping over here that I can close and open. And I have a grouping above it. If I insert and the grouping runs to the, essentially above it, there's a grouping that ends. The inserted rows go and live inside of the group above it, right? It's a way that the system works. If I go now and say, okay, I just want to expand this, you can see there are those 10 inserted rows. So be aware of that. We are looking at tweaking that to make it a little bit easier, but at the moment, that is how it works. So if you ever insert and you're not sure why it's not inserting or what's going on, just pop open the note above, and then you can sort it out and clean it up nicely. Okay, so now we've got the rows, which is perfectly fine. However, I want to actually remove it from this note above, right? Because the query from the auditor said we should be going and actually splitting it out, making its own note. And now currently it's part of note 15. So the way that I'm going to remove it is I'm going to say it's from here, right? So this is my new note. I'm just going to give it a heading so I know where it is. And I'm actually going to click on this heading and I'm going to just go to design and I am going to say ungroup note. And what does that do? It actually breaks this note out of the note above, right? Now, it's still not broken out completely. How do I know that? If I look at my little grouping, you can see that it's still indented. If you really want, you can follow the lines up. You can see it says 1, 2, 3. So that means there's 3 levels of groupings that's showing here. 1 is the highest level, 2, 3 is the lowest level, right? You can see that in the auto note numbering. This is now saying 15.3 because it's still part of the overarching note, which is note in this one column, which is obviously note 15, right? So I want to break it out of that. And again, I just need to go and again and just say ungroup note. And I'm going to ungroup note again. And now you can see it's on its own line. To refresh that note number, I can either just close and reopen the note, or I can just redo the note number. That auto note number makes that this number automatically adjusts to notes that I'm opening above it and closing below, all those kind of things. Because if I type this in, let's say I type in 16, but now I close the cost of sales note, you can see it's gone and automatically shifted to 15. And that's what the auto numbers note does. If I hadn't auto numbered it, it wouldn't go and do that. So auto number note, just activate it if you are doing the grouping, and it's very simple. You just click on the heading and then you just say auto number and it adds it for you. Cool. Let's go and actually go and build this note. So what did they say? They said they would like me to go and show the gross profit for each income stream. Okay, so the auditor hasn't really given me much information on how that's going to look, but the 2 different income streams that we have, right? We have pizzas and we had super mushrooms. Right, so there's a few different ways we can do this. I can either manually do it, and manually obviously would mean, let me jump to my working TB, and see, okay, well, there is my sales of 1.8 million, and just manually go and type it in. Okay, that's obviously not the way that we do things at Draftworx. We're going to try and make it easy. We're going to try and speed it up for you. So what we've gone and done is we allow you to actually build formulas in Draftworx with the click of a button. And what I'm going to do here is I am going to say, I want a formula, but I want to build it from my link numbers. And you'll see under design, we've got these. You can actually build it from the trial balance values itself or from the link numbers. I like using the link numbers because next year my client changes a word or a space in one of his account names. Instead of saying pizza, sales dash pizzas, it maybe becomes, I don't know, just sales space pizza. And what that does is if I don't use the Draftworx link numbers, my formula doesn't work next year. So I'm going to use the Draftworx link numbers. So I'm going to say link numbers, final being the current year's figures. And it pops open my working TB over here. And now what I can go and do is I'm going to go and search for my, let's see, my revenue. Oh, there you go. Actually, I can find it there. Revenue sale of goods. So I can do that. Now, the thing is, I need to go and calculate the gross profit, right? So the gross profit means I need to deduct my cost of sales over here, right? So I'm going to go and deduct the cost of sales line item as well. And I've selected both of them. And what that does is if I now just say select in Draftworx, it goes and builds a nice long formula for me that brings in the total for both of those values, right? And essentially, if we could take a quick look at the working TB, and we'll do a quick rough sum. But if we say the 1.842 minus 1.093, yeah, around about there, we're going to get to 700 and that. So it's actually just adding those two together for us automatically. And again, because it's built into a formula, if my working TB updates for any reason, that formula is still going to continue to calculate. Additionally to that, if I roll forward into next year, these figures will change, obviously, because now it's a new year's value. Then it's also going to update for me. So it's very useful. The one thing that I don't want to do is I don't want it to show as negative. So how do I do that to get rid of it? I'm actually just going to, again, use my Excel knowledge, put in a little minus at the front, and I'm just going to put some brackets around it. And it turns positive. So very simple. Now I want to do the same for the super mushroom. So we're going to go there, and I'm going to say, there's my sale, and there's my cost of sale. And I'm going to select them. Same process as before. Those minuses in to clean it up nicely. Fantastic. I'm going to say sum. And again, that's our Excel skills coming into play. I can just go and say sum. We do have an auto sum formula as well if you want to use. And you can go and make it bold, and you can go and underline it and all kinds of things. And in addition to that, I'd want to make sure that the Draftworx formatting is used. All that the Draftworx formatting does is it makes sure that essentially this is looks like the rest of the file. Otherwise, it wouldn't do that. Okay, perfect. So I've got the current year sorted. Do I need to go and do the whole same process again to copy and paste, or to like drag the things in from here? I don't have to do that. I can actually speed it up. I can copy paste this across. So Control C to copy quickly, Control V to paste quickly. And now currently the values are still the same, right? And you can see they say final in the formula itself. That final means it's referring to the current year. I want this to actually refer to the prior year. So do I go edit the formulas? I don't need to go and worry about that. I'm not going to go and edit the formulas. I'm instead just going to select the cells. I'm going to go to developer. And under developer, you're going to see there's this replace formula values section. Now what this does is it gives me the ability to switch from final straight to prior. And you can see it goes, updates the formula for me automatically, updates the values, and obviously my sum stays the same. So super useful. It's a nice way to just go and customize everything and pull everything in. But yeah, that is that. So let's go take a look. I believe that should be good for my gross profit for each income stream. Then it also says, also insert the attached statistics table information in a note below that and make sure each year is on its own page. Okay, a little bit of a bigger one. We're going to tackle it as well. So below that, so we'll insert it here. Let's go and take a look on the client portal if we can see that statistics from the auditor. So I'm going to just go to my audit documents. I don't see it here. I'd assume they didn't send it. So if they hadn't sent it, I can very simply just go and say, please send a stats document. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to send it to the baker's man because he needs to do it, and he needs to do it quickly. And what would happen is they'd actually go and get a notification on their side, an email, and they would go and obviously do that for me. Now, luckily, I came prepared, and I do actually have my note here. So let's quickly pop it open. My statistics table. And okay, there you go. Let me just neaten this up so everyone can see nicely. All right, so this is a little statistics table. So it just seems like it's a total units sold per month for my different items. Okay, so it's a very simple table that they just want me to pull into the financials. So first thing that I'm going to do, I don't want to just grab it from here and copy paste. Why not? Make space for it. I need to make space for it, guys. I've got only 4 rows over here that's empty, 5 rows that's empty. If I were to just paste all of that in here, it's going to paste in, but what's going to end up happening is it's going to go and paste all over my existing Draftworx. So you don't want to go and do that. You need to make space for the stuff that you want to enter, and rather make too much space than too little. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to say this, what it's going from 4 to 34. So that's 30. I'm actually going to somehow add a couple of rows. We'll insert 40 rows, and we're just going to go here. Again, I can go to format and insert rows, or I can right click and insert rows. And I'm going to insert 40 rows there. Insert them, nice and easy. So now we've got a nice big section. That looks big enough to me. And again, I would rather err on the side of caution. If I was like, maybe I didn't count 40, maybe I counted 45, just add like another 5. It's very easy to recover or to remove rows rather than like having to go and replace things in Draftworx, which you can do. If I did like paste over this, I would be able to recover it, but I like to make life easier for myself rather. So yeah. Okay, cool. So what do I want to do here? I want to firstly actually create a new note. So I am going to again ungroup my notes and auto number this new note so that it has now become note 17, and we're going to start copy pasting across. So copy paste, and we can pull it through. A few things to look out for is, again, just check for your wording and your spacing. I see this one's even odd in Excel, which is quite weird. But anyway, okay, cool. There you go. That's in. And then we've got a whole table. Now, I can try and paste this table in as is. The one thing to remember is Draftworx has little spacer rows or spacer columns instead. And you'll see part of this that I pasted now has fallen into these spacer columns. All right. So we actually don't want to go and do that, right? It's something that we've built. The spacer columns help us keep the financials neat and tidy. So it's extremely useful, but it does mean that you can't always just directly copy paste. Be aware of it. There's a few ways you can fix it. Either you can go and copy one column at a time instead of copying, everything at once. So I can go do that, and then I can go copy this one, all of that. So that's the one way to do it. The other thing that you can do, I found that this actually works quite nice, is literally just jump into your Excel. I just need to enable editing there and literally just insert some blank rows, similar like spacer rows again in concept. That's all that they are, right? And I'm going to do that for the remaining data. Copy that across and paste it across here. And now this time you can see everything is neat and tidy. We're not going to adjust the column sizes. When we do copy paste, Draftworx doesn't account, like it doesn't drag that data across. And so we just get the neat and tidy things. You can turn these things into formulas. An important note, because we're copying from Excel, if you have formulas in here, we don't keep the formulas. It's a limitation in Excel or in Windows, unfortunately, that when we do this copy paste, it like cleans up the data that comes to the browser, and it removes the formulas and so on. But, you know, very simply, I can actually just go and write a new sum formula, and we can copy paste this across and down. The values are pretty much going to stay the same. I see it's actually kind of neatened it for me. And I can go across and, you know, do the same for the rest actually as well. Cool. So let's grab all of those. And we're just going to make sure everything sits nicely there. And we can go neaten this up. And this is where, again, it's very much feels and looks and all of that kind of like Excel. So I've got that in place. I actually want to take a quick look at how this is going to look on my side, just because it is a bit of a big customization that I've gone and done now. So let's run the print preview, and we're going to see how this table looks, because I remember they said that they wanted me to make sure that each note is, or each year is on its own page. All right, I don't know why, but apparently that's what the auditors want. And so we're just going to throw it in there. So taking a look at our preview, I'm just going to jump down here. We can see that, okay, I kind of have it here, although it ends a little bit unneatly, and we're going to try and fix up those things. And it's definitely not each year on its own row, right? There's 2025, and my 2026 is obviously at the top there. So it's not as nice as I would have liked it. So first things first, though, I want this note to kind of start on its own page. So the way that I'm going to go and do that is I'm going to go to this notes header, and I'm actually going to go and say I want my notes to break on, instead of paragraphs, I'm going to say subnotes. What does that mean? That means if a note, or a subnote at least, is broken into two by a page break, instead of letting that little bit of the subnote start at the top in this sheet and then kind of get cut off halfway through, it instead starts it on the new page, right? So it just cleans it up, keeps it nice and tidy. Very useful tool. I like these. Important note, you can see they are global settings. So if you do apply them, they actually apply to all of your files. I like that. I keep them neat and tidy. Usually just set something to like subnotes and it applies automatically. I get like 99% of the time, if you put it on something like that, they actually come out really neatly. Okay, cool. But let's go back to the file quickly, and we're going to keep working on it. So now what I want to do is I want this to split into two. So that's fine. Very easy for me. I'm just going to go and click on my where I want it to start again. So I want March to be the start of my 2026. And I'm going to go and say content, or sorry, not content. I'm going to go to print layout, and I'm going to say insert page break. So what does that do? Insert page break forces this to actually start on its own page. So that's what they requested, right? They want this to start on its own page. So let's jump back here. One of the things you'll see if you do ever jump between your financials and your preview, I've got so many things in the way here. Let me delete, just remove some of that. But if I jump from my financials to the preview, you will see that there's this refresh that pops up. And if I do that, it will just refresh and show me the latest version of the financials. And here we can see, let's scroll through again. Okay, so that's fine and well. What we do miss now, though, is I see that I don't have headings here, and I would really like headings. So there you can see I've got the months, I've got the little super mushrooms and other and pizza and whatever. All of that, we've got those headings here. So I would like those headings actually at the top here. So there's options, right? One thing that we can try and do is we can insert some rows here and then copy paste these and kind of bring them in here again. But that sucks, right? And as I've said before, Draftworx, we don't like this whole bunch of extra work for nothing. So what we're instead going to do is we're going to go create what we call a repeated header. All right. And what a repeated header means is I'm going to tell Draftworx, I'm going to say to it, take these rows and turn them into headers and repeat them if my page ever gets split for a certain table. So in this case, this table, right? Because I don't want these repeat headers to repeat themselves, I don't know, down here for my other income or whatever. I just want it to be contained within this section. All right, so we're going to do that, right? Let's do a couple of things here. I just want to neaten this up. My OCD is kicking in hard. Let's neaten these up a little bit. Go. And you can see it's actually very easy to neaten things up quite quickly. There you go. That should look a little bit better. These we also want to center, right? Can't center one and not center the other. Okay, cool. Now let's repeat these headings. What I'm going to do is select all of the rows that you want to be headers. Now you're not going to select like the whole row, and you're not going to use the row selector there. What you want to do is select column C or column B. Okay, you can select whichever you want. I'm going to actually select column B in this case. All right. And what we're going to do, we're going to again use our good old name ranges. As I said, the name ranges extremely useful. They can do a whole lot of things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to say create a new name range. And we are going to say custom table and underscore. Remember, we don't have spaces. Repeat header. Now, the part that's the most important is this underscore repeat header. Okay. It is essentially what that does is it gives Draftworx the instruction that this is the header rows that I want to repeat over and over for my custom table. So I'm essentially giving an instruction saying repeat headers, but for this custom table. I can change this name. It doesn't have to be custom table. I can maybe just change it to stats table if I want. Okay. But I can do that, and I've changed it, and now I say, okay, cool. So that's step 1 of 2 that's done. Now what I want to do is I need to tell Draftworx where is the actual table that it needs to repeat these headers for, right? Because I've now told it that these are the fancy headers, but I have not told it which tables to repeat it for. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to then select, again, I can just select column B if I want, or column C, or whichever. You don't have to select everything. But I'm going to select that. And again, I'm going to create a name range. And this time, I'm going to say, this is the stats table, right? So earlier I said we've got the repeating headers for the stats table. And now I am telling Draftworx, this is my stats table. And if I now go do that, and we just want to rerun the print preview, it should go and repeat those headers nice and tightly for me. Let's see now. Let's jump down. All right, so there is the start of it, and there is the bottom, and you can see we are repeating the headers nicely, and it looks neat and tidy for me. So very cool, very useful feature. If you are doing a lot of customization, you're welcome to use that. Remember that it does have to say _repeat header. That's the most important part of it. And then your table name itself also just has to match up. But cool. So that's that. Let's keep going. Let's see what else the auditor has asked us. They ask a lot of things, man, these auditors, telling you. Okay, cool. Please reconcile the tax calc and make sure we don't have adjustments and we're taxed at the right rates. Okay, easy enough. Let's go take a look at our tax calc. That is my tax calc over here. So remember, I did mention this briefly in our advanced. These questions at the top are very important because they do have an effect on what kind of rate we're using for your tax and all of those kind of things. So if it's small business, make sure to answer this yes. And you'll see if I do answer it yes, there's additional questions that I need to answer. So be aware of that. In this case, I'm actually going to say no. This is a big business. We're not doing any small business tax. The second part of the tax note, and again, I did show this quickly, is just make sure that you are covering your deductions and your add backs and everything over here as well. This is obviously very important, and this is where your knowledge as the tax practitioner and the auditors and everyone, you have this knowledge of tax, what gets added back, what doesn't. So go and make sure that that is correct as well. And then, okay, Draftworx will go and calculate your normal tax. One thing to mention is if you have capital gains tax or prior period assessed losses, you'll see there's little blue hyperlinks to calculations. If you click on them, we have a nice calculator here that just assists you in calculating your tax for different things and so on. So super useful. You can always take a look if it's needed. In this case, I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to double check. Okay, so normal tax, and then we have our total per statement of financial position. And we looked at this the other day, but we want to make sure everything is zero here, right? Because if we take a quick look at our status, you can see that our status is affected obviously by that tax calc and values. And so in this case, all that I want to do is I need to make sure my statement of financial position section is correct. Where's that amount coming from? If I look nice and carefully, I can see that my closing balance last year was actually the same. And so I go and check my records and I go and see, oh, you know what? The client has actually gone and they have made a payment. And having made sure that they made a payment, we then obviously balance out correctly now and everything's fine. If we look at the status, also again, it's zeroed out, so it looks good. So a very simple one. That one's actually nice and quick. So the tax calc's fine. Let's see. Okay, so now we're getting to the print preview. Please add the attached audit report and also ensure that the whole financials are marked as draft. Okay, cool. So the audit report, we did get that last time. We luckily pulled it in from here, right? So that's great. So audit report sits in our documents. There it is. Okay, so how do I take this audit report and just drop it into Draftworx? I don't want to go copy paste it, right? That's going to be a mission. So what I'm going to do instead is I am going to go to our preview. Let's just refresh and make sure we're on the latest version. And what I'm going to do on that preview is I'm going to say, here is the Draftworx independent auditors report. Nice and blank at the moment, right? Because I closed everything. There's no detail there really. I want to replace this with the audit report that that the auditor's given us. And the way that I do it, under this all section, if I scroll down, there's a section here that says sheets, and it says attach PDF files to sheets. And this is what I'm looking for. What this allows me to do is it allows me to go and attach a random PDF, in this case my audit report, to any one of the sheets in Draftworx. So you can see these sheets are the ones that we have on the file, right? Checklist, status, cover, you can see all of them listed there. So I'm going to go find the audit report. I'm going to click on the little attach PDF button, and I'm going to say replace this sheet with a file. So I can attach a file above or below as well. So that's if you're doing like addendums or prefixed files or whatever it might be. But in this case, I actually want to replace it because I don't want to keep this blank report that Draftworx has here. So I'm going to just say replace the sheet with a file. It opens up my little file manager screen where I can see the folders. Folders match up with our reports here at the top. And then I'm simply going to go and say, okay, cool, what is the, it was added in the documents. There's the audit report. I want to select it. And you can see it actually now says the Draftworx audit report has been replaced with this PDF. And I'm going to apply. And that applies it. And it goes through, and there you go. Very easily. There's my independent audit report. Straight from the auditor. They have added a whole bunch of information there. One thing I'd notice is there is actually no page number here. Now, I actually would want that probably page number, right? Because that's 7, and at the top here I've got page 5. But now I actually want page 6 here as well. So what I can do is, if I see that, click on the 3 little lines, I can actually just say show footer on attached file. And that then overwrites the little PDF with just our footer, the standard footer that you've chosen. And in this case, then it obviously updates my page number for me. So that's cool. Nice and easy. Fantastic. Alrighty, let's go to the next one. So that was actually adding in the financials or the letterhead, the audit report. Sorry, adding in the PDF audit report. Okay, show the whole financials marked as draft. Very easy. We're going to go watermark. Watermark is enabled, is it? No, it's not. It needs to be activated. Sorry. I can choose the name, so I can change it to draft or whatever it might be. And then I can choose the text color. So let's make it purple. Beautiful. And we can apply. So now what happens is essentially it's going to go and add a nice draft in purple for me. And I have that on the file. Perfect. So that's done. What else? Add the gain and grain letterhead to the compiler's report, and then the client logo on the cover page. And lastly, make sure the note numbers are in the margin for all of the note pages. Okay, let's take a quick look at those. So firstly, what's that? Cover page. They want an image on the cover page. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Very simply, we have a setting here that says cover page. Click here to create a cover page image. We make it really simple, guys. Follow the little buttons. Read them. It's all there. Cover page. And what I'm going to do is I can literally just find my image on my computer. Click there. And let's quickly see. There you go. Oops, this image is too big. So one thing to be aware of, your image actually does have a size limit. So this one seems to be too big, which is interesting. All right, let me quickly see if I can fix that up on my side. Otherwise, we can also just quickly modify something else. All right. I'm going to leave that for now, not to get distracted, because otherwise we're going to just end up wasting time. So what we're going to instead do, I'm just going to add another letterhead here, another image. Let's add this cover page. We'll do this one. That's quite nice. And we're going to say, do we want it full screen or not? So I don't want it full screen. I actually want it just in the middle center of the cover sheet, and I can apply it, and it's going to add it through. Cool, there you go. So very easy. Image added. That's their new logo. Beautiful, fantastic. Let's go to the letterhead. So we need to add the grain and gain letterhead on the compiler's report. Okay, so here we actually have a few options. So we can go and do new letterheads. So if I click on the plus, I can again go and find a letterhead and add it in, or all of that kind of thing. However, something to be aware of, if you have already saved the letterhead to your practice once, we're going to remember them for you. So you can see I've got a bunch of letterheads already. I can simply go and say, oh, you know what? This is a fantastic letterhead. Let's use this one. And I am going to just apply it to my file. And it adds a pre-existing one. So it makes it nice and easy. And we can simply do it like that. And there you go. So it adds it in. If you need to create a letterhead, you can do that as well, right? So let's go and create a letterhead. We customize a little bit. Instead of just dropping in an image, I can say this where it says need a new letterhead, create your own here. And if I click on this, it gives me a blank canvas to go and build a letterhead with. Let's quickly see if I am lucky enough. No, not lucky enough. But I can go and add a letterhead over here. So we can go and build one. There's an image, fantastic, brings it in. And I can kind of put it there. I can move it around, I can make it bigger and smaller, however I want. But it gives me full customizability to do a letterhead, and I can put in a footer as well. So I can go and grab a second image, and we can just go and drop it, at the bottom. And then we've got a header and a footer. If I save that, my letterhead 6 is now saved. And again, I can apply it wherever I want it. So it makes it nice and easy. Cool. So that's my letterheads. And keeps it nice and tidy. Let's take a look at what we need to do. Last two things. Okay, that was the letterheads. Okay, we need to just make sure that the note numbers are in the margin for all of the notes. So let's take a quick look at the notes. It looks like they're not in the margin at the moment, right? It looks like they are currently all like lined up with my headings. So that's something that I'll need to change. And we've got a toggle for that. If we go to the note sheet, I have an option. You can see there's a note numbers section over here. And it says, where do I want my note number position? Prepend to the note, meaning it adds it just in front of the text, or inside margin. So I want the inside margin. I'm going to apply that, and it's going to pull it through on my side. And now you can see these there like this. So fantastic. Okay, cool. And you know what? I have some awesome support people that are fantastic. So I'm quickly going to change up my cover page because somebody kindly enough went and quickly fixed my too big an image for me. So let me quickly grab it there. Yes. And we're going to just make sure that our cover page looks nice and tidy. And just let that in. Hey, there you go. Look at that nice cover page. Okay, a little bit oversized, but we can always change that. We can also move where it's sitting. So there's tweaks and things we can do. And again, if we want, we can just say remove, and we can actually go and build our own. So same as what we do with the letterheads, right? We can build a cover page as well. So we've got a lot of tools to make life easier for ourselves. So there you go. Boom. And save. And that should look a lot better. All right. What's the last thing we have to do? Okay, save it, send it back. Perfect. Okay. So that's going to be nice and easy. We can double check everything. If we need to close some sheets, if I need to close the checklist, close the status page, we can go and do all of that. In this case, I'm not going to worry too much about it. But now I want to send it back to the auditor. I can download it, email it. Alternatively, click on those two little arrows, send to client portal. And I'm actually going to send these financials. I'm going to say draft 1, change the name. I'm going to send it to the auditor, and I'm going to send it and create a request. So that means I can now tell him draft 1 is ready with all of the changes that he asked for. So please check. And again, I can assign it to the Baker's Man, our auditor. And we'll give him a nice tight deadline because he gave me a nice tight deadline. Boom. And there you go. So now it's been saved. It gets sent to him. You'll see if I go to the client portal and I actually go back to my requests, there's that new request that I just created. And he would have received an email on his side as well and all of that. So yeah, that is passed on there. Fantastic. So that's a few of the basics, guys. I think we've covered a lot of what I've wanted to cover. There's a few small things that we quickly want to run through that are a little bit outside of the scope of one file, by just some complexities we see quite often that people cover. But I do hope that you enjoy that. We tried to make it, like I said, a more realistic scenario today. But let's quickly touch base on a few things that are, as I said, a little bit outside of a single scope, but we do see it pop up quite often on our support and people request help with it as well. The first thing that I want to just cover is FCT, so foreign currency translations, right? So that's always something that pops up. We see it very often, and there's a lot of queries around it. And the reason there's a lot of queries around it is because foreign currency translation affects everything and everything else. Okay, so it's quite complex. But let me run through a few basic things that Draftworx has done, and we do try and make it easy for you. But it does pop up quite often. And again, I've got a lovely PowerPoint here that Nicole built for us. Thank you, Nicole. We're going to go through it here quickly, and we're going to just take a few things. So before we start worrying too much about foreign currency, there's a few things that we need to make sure about. We are going to need a spot rate and an average rate, right? Why do we need spot rate and average rate, right? That is the way that we do the conversion, right? Spot rate is for our balance sheet items. It's on the day of the year end. Average rates for all of our income statement items. And we need that. That's going to be applied across the board for those. And we're going to need the spot rate and average rate for both years on our side. So it's either, actually for all of the years. If I've got 2 years, for the 2 years. If it's 4 years, whatever, I need for 4 years. So I need to have those spot rates across the board. Additional to that, so how it works is we need to enable the foreign currency translation in Draftworx. And the way that we're going to do it is we are going to go to our working trial balance. So just to note, and I just want to show you guys. So I built this file earlier for Croissant Kingdom. And at the moment, status page is looking amazing, right? There's no problems at all with it. Okay. However, I need to now add foreign currency. So where do I find it? You'll see on the side here. You might have to push the little button to see it nicely. But we've got the foreign currency there. We've got toggle and we've got setup. Now, before we toggle, we have to set up, as I said. We need those rates. So if I click on that, we're going to get a pop-up where we can insert the currency symbol and the description. I've gone and done this ahead of time. In the same way, I've also gone and added our spot rate and our average rate. And the same with the prior year spot and average. So I've gone and inserted all of that data already. Fantastic. So this is correct. I don't need to worry about it again. I'm just going to save. And now, if I say toggle, you'll see we get some additional columns in our TB. We are going to get this. We have the final, which we're used to seeing, and then we're going to get the 2076 FCT final. And those are the converted values that Draftworx has gone and has done the conversion. And what it's gone and done is the income statement items, it has used the average rate for, and the balance sheet items, it's used the spot rate for. All right. So be aware that's how we do the conversion. Now, with that in mind, right, we all understand accounting. If we're using two different rates to convert values, our trial balance is going to go out of balance. So Draftworx goes and we create a FCT account for you that you can see it's got a 0 value in all of the items without FCT, but in the actual converted value, there's 26,000. The reason we do that is we go and do the conversion for you to make sure that your TB is still in balance. So we'll apply the conversion to all the amounts, and then this is just an amount to make sure the TB balances, because obviously you don't want an out of balance TB. So you'll see, just jumping back to our slides quickly. So when I enable it, Draftworx automatically creates that FCT account for me. It's our balancing account that we apply. Okay, so that's great. However, let's quickly go on. Back to our financials. Let's refresh. Let's see what's going on. Cool. So first thing, we will see that our figures in has now changed to dollar, so it actually automatically changes. However, the other thing that we see that makes us a little bit sad is retained earnings is out of balance. If we scroll down, we can see all kinds of other things are out of balance. And again, that is because we have now gone and done conversions, right? So think of your PPE recon, right? Earlier, I had typed in for motor vehicles, there was an addition, there was an acquisition. However, that acquisition, the typed in value that I had there, it's not a Draftworx formula. It hasn't taken into account the FCT conversions. So I need to go and repeat myself. I need to go investigate again and go and convert essentially my additions from acquisitions values. So be aware of that. And in the same manner, my retained earnings has also changed. Okay, so here we can see, let's run back to our slides. Why has the retained earnings changed? Because the reason for that is we essentially now are changing multiple years values in Draftworx, right? Because remember, if we look at normal retained earnings without FCT, it's relatively simple, right? You've got your opening balance for year one, you've got your profits, you've got your distributions or whatever, dividends, and then you've got a closing balance. All right, so that's a very simple retained earnings. And then the opening balance for the next year matches the closing balance for the last year. However, what have we done in Draftworx? We have two different conversion rates for my year. That means that my retained earnings value in Draftworx is getting converted for the 2025 year at 18.4, 2026 year it's getting converted at 16.5. So you expect it to go out. It should go out. Unfortunately, we cannot automate that for you because there's a lot of things, there's a lot of complexity when it comes into your essentially your retained earnings, and you have to go and do that correction. So I'm going to touch that correction now. But basically what we have to do is we have to go and create a new account on our trial balance that is again linked to the foreign currency translation account. So it uses the same link as what we've gone and done here, but I need to go create a new one. Why do I want to create a new one? Because if I use this one that Draftworx has automatically created for me, if I write journals to that, it is actually going to break that one. So we don't want to mess around with the Draftworx one. Go and create a new one. Go and say, whatever. Call it whatever you want, as long as it's not the Draftworx one, new FCT, and you can go and work and change that and modify that however is needed. But be aware that you should not be using the Draftworx foreign currency translation account, because if I write a journal to that account, it affects my values that don't even have any FCT to them as well. And so I don't want that to happen, so I'm not going to write anything there. So be aware of that. You can see there's this slides go on. We're talking about don't do it. We talk about it a few times. We tell you not to do it. You'll be getting these slides as well. But yeah, just be aware of that. The one other thing to mention, obviously, and you can see it here, when you do roll a file forward that you did FCT for, you are going to just have to update your rates. Go and make sure that these rates are correct and that they still remain consistent. Because if you apply last year's rates to this year as if it's a new year, you're just going to cause headaches for yourselves. So you want your rates to stay the same, especially if your last year involved a lot of journals and a lot of customization on your side to get it correct. Cool. So that is the FCT. Nice and easy. Let's take a quick look at some consolidations. So obviously another thing that comes up quite often, consolidations. Now Draftworx has got full power to do consolidations for. And I'm actually going to quickly pop open a file here, the Better Brother group. Now this is a consolidation of the files we've been working on, right? I'm doing firstly the 2025. I just want to show you guys how it looks to do a fresh consolidation and then how it looks to do a consolidation for a new year, because you approach it a little bit differently in Draftworx. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to import my data. Now I've got two options. I can import directly from here, or I can actually import Excel that's got my consolidated TV. So let's start though, and on my side I'm actually going to just go and do this consolidation in Draftworx. So I'm going to click on that, and what it's going to do, it gives me all of the files that I can choose to consolidate. All right, and I'm going to say, okay, this is the 2025 year. I want to consolidate the daily slice, and I'm going to consolidate summarize sourdough, and I'm going to choose the structure. So which one's the holding, which one's the subsidiary. All right, let's do that. And I'm going to say next. And because this is a new consolidation, I actually do want to include my prior years, because there's nothing here at the moment, right? This, you can see this is blank. So we want to include our prior years as much as we can, so we've got lots of data. Consolidate. Perfect. Nice and easy. Brings in my data for me. You can see we have the daily slice that's now in, and then there we've got summarize sourdough. The H is for the holding company. The S is for subsidiaries. All right, and we pull in all of the data. We're going to pull in your linking. We're going to pull in the amounts. The opening balance here is the balance after the Draftworx journals in the standalone file. So be aware of that. It's the after journals in the Draftworx files that we show you. So that's great. So we pull in all of that data. Fantastic. Now, how does it look when we are doing it for, if we roll this file forward, right? So if I were to go through the roll forward process and all of that, now the next year, how would that look? I've already rolled this file forward. So I'm just going to jump in there. I'm going to just show you guys how it looks. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to quickly do my financial data. Now you can see we have our daily slice and we have our summarize sourdough. It's the new year 2026. However, we do not have any balances. Okay, so that's fine. So let's click on this consolidation button again. Important to note, it's going to show you where the figures, the consolidation numbers are currently coming from. So currently it's coming from essentially those two, summarize sourdough and daily slice. Let us edit them so we get new information. And important here is I actually can, these are the 2025 files, right? So I'm actually going to untick those two, right? And I want to say we rather want to do the 2026 files. I'm going to do the same as before and select those, all right? The important difference is when I now go next, I don't want to select include prior year. Why not? Because the prior data that is in this file, it is actually already the data from my last year's finalized, consolidation figure. Because if I did journals in that file, maybe I changed some of the linking because there's specific links that I wanted to use for my consolidation file that's different to the standalone entities. I don't want to break that information. If I say include prior year, what the system is going to do is it's actually going to overwrite the prior year data with my standalone figures again. And the consolidated data work that I've done will be lost. So you don't want to do that. Just be sure of that. And then I can consolidate again. One other thing to mention, I'm just going to go back one. You can obviously also add additional things. So we purchased M&H Karting for this year. So you can add additional companies into the subsidiary. You don't need to now worry about this. Again, in the same context, though, I'm not going to add the prior because this is a new part of the console. We don't want to add the prior. And so we're going to remember that same concept. Don't include prior, consolidate, and we can just say, okay, and it's going to update our figures for us. So, and it leaves obviously all of the prior data nice and tidy. So just remember that when you are doing consolidations. A few other tips with the consolidations. If you do any journal in the consolidation, we consider that an elimination journal. So any journal done in this consolidation file will be an elimination journal, meaning it's only going to affect, we look at our consolidation figures, it's got four amounts. It's only going to affect the group. It's not going to affect the standalone holding company figures on the consolidation financials. Right, so if I were to go and do a journal, only this is going to be affected, not this. All right, so be aware of that. If you need to go and make a correction, go back to the standalone file, make the correction, come to Draftworx, consolidations. You don't have to reconsolidate. You can actually just say refresh, opening balances. It's only going to update the new figures from the standalone files. You don't have to worry about it bringing in new linking and all of that. You can see you've got a refresh linking as well. That's if you've got a different way around, right? If you want to update the linking from that comes from the standalone file specifically, you can do that. But yeah, that's essentially our consolidations. The one other thing to show you, if you have done the consolidation yourself, so sometimes we have a case where you have gone and done a consolidation in Excel. So you've taken the TVs, kind of put them together yourself. You can bring that into Draftworx as well. So let me clear everything I have here, and I'll show you guys quickly how it looks. When I do the Excel import, I'm going to select the file. I'm going to go and select, got a consolidation TB here somewhere. There you go. Now, what I want to do, and I'm just going to quickly clear that. I'm going to do my account numbers, same as usual. Okay, account name, as you can see, we prefix a few things, but that's fine. Debit credit amounts, leave that out and that out for now. The important one that I want to show you for the consolidations is this client name. That is going to be your different company names, right? So the daily slice, the karting, and then the samurai soda. So that one's important to do. If I now go and consolidate and import, we get a new pop-up. Because the system isn't sure, which company is holding, which company is not, I just need to select on this list, there's Samurai Soda as our holding company, the other two are subs, and I can say confirm, and it will go and pull it in nice and tidy again with the holding and the subsidiary split. So you can do consolidations directly from Excel if needed. Okay, there's one more thing that I want to show you guys, and then we're going to be done for the day, which is fantastic because I see it is 4:15. Thanks so much for staying with me, guys. I really appreciate it. We're going to quickly run through a very quick management account, right? So management account being, we just want to go and make sure to pull in monthly values. Okay. Now, there's a couple of different ways to do this. If you have your monthly data in Excel, you can bring that in. I'm going to go to Excel. I'm going to select the file. I'm going to quickly find a monthly TB that I have. And in this case, you link like normal, right? Account numbers, account names. I'll do my linking and all of that. And then I want to do my debit and credit amounts. Okay. In my Excel, debits and credit amounts are for month 1 is here in column J. Month 2, you can see K, L, M. So they kind of go on like that. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just have that selected, but I want to bring in monthly values, and I don't want to import this 12 times because that would be a huge slip. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say import into, instead of opening balance, month 1. And then I'm going to also say I want to import other months from consecutive columns. If I now go import, what it's going to do, it automatically jumps through my whole Excel and it says, okay, cool, month 1 was column J, month 2, column K, all of that. And you can see my transaction amount here is the total for my months. If I want to see that split up nicely, we can go periods and we can say show monthly trial balance. It then splits it up nicely, month 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can see that it's in all separately. So very simple to do monthly management pack. Remember, under periods, you can just show whichever months you need. Cool. The other way you can do it, if you have an existing connection, again, with one of our providers, Sage, QuickBooks, Xero, I'm going to quickly log into Xero and just grab monthly values from there. This is even easier. You don't need to worry about doing it in Excel. It's much faster. But you'll see when I do this import, I just need to log into Xero, taking a second there. But now I can obviously select my company and I can say actually import monthly balances. So it's a lot easier than the Excel. Just say import monthly. And again, if I now import that data, it will pull through into my monthly trial balance. And there you go. You can see I got all of my information through from Xero. Fantastic. Makes life easy. The opening balances are going to be my balance sheet items, right, that we're going to pull through for you. And the other things are going to be there. So nice and easy, very quick and fast. Fantastic. Then that is pretty much me. The last thing to mention, as always, if anyone needs any assistance or any support of any kind, please hop onto our support channels. If you click on the little question mark, you can go to the knowledge base. That's kind of like a help yourself. Go there. You can search queries, questions. You can go to the contact support. Contact support, we get a little pop-up. We can type in a message for the support team. We can send it through. The support team takes, for these, they usually take about 30 minutes to 4 hours to turnaround time to get back to you for the contact support items. And if you need help really fast, you can go remote support. I did show this in the basics. We do always love showing our support off. And this time, as I mentioned in the basics, we don't need to actually download it every time. I'm just going to go to my downloads and I'm going to say, oh, there's TeamViewer QS. Look at that. Hey, I can just use that. Double click and it's going to take a second or two and it's going to go and show my support thing. It just takes a while to load. There you go. Boom. It's generating that session code. You can see it's not ready yet. Wait for the green. Fantastic. It's busy loading. If you see the zeros like that, it means it is loading. It will eventually give me one. There you go, Zeus. And we'll click on the chat icon and we'll just chat to the support team. There you go. I'm not even going to ask for assistance. I'm just going to tell them they're fantastic humans because they really are. Thanks. And that is pretty much everything my side. Clarissa, I don't know if there are any other questions that are outstanding. I hope today was extremely useful for everyone. Like I said, we tried to make it practical. We tried to change it a little bit and just make life easy for everyone. And yeah, if you have questions, please always hop onto the support, chat to us. You're welcome to let everyone know. We always try and take your feedback and actually improve the program with it. That's one of the big reasons we are where we are today. And so, yeah, always send your feedback through. And thanks so much, everyone.
Hey, Christo, thank you for a fantastic job. Well done. It's been 2 busy days for you. I think you must feel like you've run a marathon. Did you do Comrades this year? This is sort of a bit similar.
I didn't. And it just feels like it, though. I'm gonna go take a good solid nap.
No, you deserve it, man. But seriously, well done. Big thank you to C in the background as well. I had a quick look just now, and when I'd finished the other session, and I just saw that everything had been attended to. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us and for staying on, like Christo said. Thanks, Clarissa. Thanks, each and every one of you, for joining us. And we'll see you hopefully next week. Take care. Cheerio.
Okay, cheers everyone. Bye.